All right, hello. I'm Jen Pittman, Program Manager for the Hunter Development Program. And within that program, we're Wildlife Resources, Department of Natural Resources. And what we do is we're the fun crew. We're over hunter education, we're over anything shooting sports related, and we're over all of our DNR staffed ranges. So Hunter Ed, we're running 14,000 students, youth and adults, through online and in-person classes. Our National Archery in the Schools program is 50,000 plus kids going through in PE or Ag.
Wow.
During the school day. We have our Scholastic Clay Target program, which is our shotgun program. About 400 and some kids are going through that, and the really neat thing is it's just in our independent school systems right now. The hope is it'll be in public school one day, that those kids can letter in basketball, cheerleading, and shotgun. So that's kind of neat on your letter jacket. And
cool.
yeah, I think that's neat. We do lots of different outdoor events. We do an instructional shooting program, Give It a Shot, and that covers shotgun, rifle, pistol, and then archery. And that's just an introductory program for folks that have never picked up a firearm or bow before, that they can learn how to safely use it and then go to other programs. And then our range operations, so we design and then build our ranges, and then we operate them. So we have 17 statewide, 9 are staffed with range safety officers, and somewhere around 70,000 folks are using those every year.
How many people are on your staff?
I have 6 regional folks that are scattered across the state in 6 different locations, and then we have administrative staff, and then we have close to 60 part-time range safety officers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find yourself having to go throughout the state much to do much of the Hunter Ed? Or?
Most of my staff does Hunter Ed now. I travel less than I used to. I get to stay in the office and do the administrative, budget, personnel matters that everyone
you
loves
get
to do.
It's a privilege.
It is a privilege. Yes, yes. It's by far fun. Yeah. But no, I do have to go around. Lots of meetings. So I do a lot of meetings across the state. I go visit the ranges often. More so anything just to say hi to my part-timers. You know, we don't have any full-time range safety officers. They're all part-time hourlies, no more than 29 hours a week. That's the only difference in the way I treat a range safety officer. So everything else, you know, I consider them just like any other full-timer, except they just don't get paid as much and they don't work as much. And so I just like to make sure they're doing good, talk to them, make sure their families are good, you know, try and have some sort of relationship, because Georgia's big and it's hard. It's just hard to keep up with everybody.
Yeah.
Are there opportunities for Warnell students to have summer interns with your program or any type of summer employment?
Yeah, so we're always looking for range safety officers. We've done a couple with some students before, more on a volunteer basis, helping out. But Caleb Griner's on my staff now in North Georgia, and he was an intern at Charlie Elliott from Warnell. And then Matthew Swords was from Georgia College, and he was an intern. We didn't call him an intern, he was a part-time hourly, but for school he was an intern, so he got credit.
Right.
And he worked for us for several years before becoming on full-time as well.
Oh, okay.
So we've stolen from colleges.
Well, that's good. That's good. And
Yeah.
so how did you get into the job that you do? What's your kind of employment history?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I graduated with an undergrad in history, and I immediately got a job at the National Rifle Association in Virginia, and I was running instructional shooting programs across the country, for women. And then went to the other side of the program, which was taking women on hunts across the country. And then the job that I originally applied for to move to Georgia, I got, and it was just doing this little thing called NASP that nobody had talked about before and heard about, which is National Archery in the Schools program. And so it grew from just that to a shotgun program, and then we became Hunter Development, and Walter Lane was program manager, and then he became assistant chief, and then I moved into his old position.
Okay.
Cool. So what, in your position, do you find any struggles or adversities or things that you might have to overcome, speaking of a similar program like you talked about when you started out with NRA or after the NRA? introducing women to or bringing women on hunts and educating? in that regard?
The only thing we run into, no, not really. What all of our research is showing is women's the fastest growing segment coming into hunting and shooting sports. So it's a pretty interesting, that's a big, huge rise is women. The fear of the unknown is what we get a lot from people. You know, I'm afraid to pick up a firearm. You know, if we can convince them to touch it, you know, they're pretty much sold after that. Our ranges, when we took over ranges in 2015, hunter development, prior to that, every region had it under them in game management. So we swooped in, we took them all over, and we had them all operate the same. Prior to that, they had different hours and different kind of rules, and we've promoted it a lot better. And then we only hire top-notch range safety officers. They go through 2 interview processes. I mean, we have probably the most stringent hiring process for our range safety officers within WRD. I mean, they have to go through 2 rounds of interviews, and then you know, we either hire them or don't. But they see such a huge segment of Georgia population that we want to make sure that, you know, customer service is number 1, safety is really close after number 1. You know, we don't want tyrants, but we don't want, you know, just let everything just run over you either.
Sure.
So it's, you know, it's just it's an important position. You know, I mean, they're really keeping everybody safe at these ranges. So
Good.
so nothing really terrible. It's just you know, normal every day.
Sweet. Why is hunter education important?
So hunter ed is mandated under Georgia state law. Every state has this mandated to take it, and every state's different on how old you have to be to take it. But I can pull numbers for you prior to hunter ed, and the number of hunting incidents and accidents, and then hunter ed it was mandated, started having to take it, and it just keeps going down. And you know, we had 3, we have to consider them fatalities last year, but none of them were a firearm or bow, gunshot wound, arrow wound, none of that. It was just the way the national database works is if you're in the act of hunting and you get hurt or have a fatality, it's considered an incident or fatality. So
Crazy.
yeah, so none of ours, you know, it's all hunters had been in the act of hunting, but nothing
Related to hunting.
Nothing related to hunting. Yeah, I guess you could put it that way. So, you know, I mean, we can hold our head high to that. That's really spectacular. We're still working on it, but tree stand incidents are still our number 1. And we put in for a grant with Tree Stand Safety Awareness Association. We just got that. It was just announced yesterday, Monday. But yeah, so we're going to get some new banners and really try and make some more pushes on you got to wear a harness. But it's just people choosing not to wear a harness and falling is our number 1 incidents in Georgia.
We all make choices,
Yes, we do.
so not all of them are good choices. What do you love about your position the most? What are those wow moments, or oh, that's exactly what I wanted to see moment, or you know?
Yeah, so my favorite by far program, I didn't want to tell you that on my staff, is the National Archery in the Schools program. Probably just because I started it, and it's where it's at now, you know, now with all the guys and gals helping us. But and this can go through any discipline, but when you take, especially a little person, and you can tell this little person is never going to be the basketball star, is never going to be the cheerleading queen, but they just shine, you know, and even if they're not winning any trophies at our state tournament, but they're just shining in something. You know, you've taken a kid who you know struggles and have just elevated them. And for a kid, I was always an athlete of some sort as a kid, so I thought every kid got trophies, right? But it was early in our state tournament. A mom came up to me crying. I was like, oh my goodness, somebody's gotten hurt. What's going on? And she gave me a big hug and just crying. And I was like, what's going on? She goes, you don't understand how important this is for my son. She goes, he has never gotten a trophy before in his life. Yeah, and it still gives me goosebumps because she was just so passionate about it. It's the first time he's ever been cool, in like a sports thing. And so, this program, and you'll see it. You see it more, not so much at the school program based because we're not in there, but when you on the line at the state tournament, we have 224 kids on the line at a time, and you can pick out the 9 athletes. And they're killing it. It's just awesome, and so it's really fun, and everyone's high-fiving, and you can take people with cognitive issues, and you can take these wheelchair kids, and just everybody in between, and everybody's on a team, and it's
cool.
You just can't do that with any other sport. So
absolutely.
That's my number one.
What advice would you give in closing to a student who might want to have a similar position to yours? I know they're limited positions, I know they are, but in doing something like you do, what advice would you give them in preparation of that for training or volunteer work or what have you?
Right. Yeah, I would definitely say if they wanted to volunteer, if they wanted to become a part-time hourly range safety officer, that gives them a good taste of what this world is. Because they're going to have all sorts of people coming in, all different types of firearms coming in, just learning how to talk to the public. It's a huge skill to have, and it's not something you're born with. So just being able to relate to people and understand when somebody comes up to you a little angry or a little upset, and how to mitigate that and kind of soften it, and then just to see what we do, because people always just think we just teach people to shoot, and we do that, but we really train people on how to teach others to shoot. So we're really more on the adult end, more so than the kids. We're teaching adults how to become coaches. And so we get a lot of people that have been the soccer coach or the softball coach, and they love working with kids. We don't work with kids. We work with the adults who then work with the kids, and there's a big difference there.
Sure.
Lots of times kids are way more fun. So, learning how to deal with all these different adult personalities and what they think is important, because we all have our own little, some want to be real competitive, and some just want every kid to learn how to shoot whatever they're going to teach, and just trying to keep that. But yeah, anytime volunteering, just coming in and shadowing. We've had a couple shadows before, and that's a great way just to kind of see, this sounds like a great thing, or ooh, I'm out.
Yeah. We've heard that from a number of folks.
Well, kind of following up on that, those soft skills that are so important, and you as an administrator in your position, you've got to manage people as well as a safety issue with firearms and bows. What's some of your advice for our students to skills that they need to polish and be proficient at to be successful in their career as young professionals?
I encourage all my staff to read as many management and leadership books, listen to podcasts. I have manager tools come up every day on my email, and sometimes I get something out of it, and somebody's like, and you might file that for a little bit, but all those little pieces of information help you. No one is born a manager. No one knows how to supervise. It takes blood, sweat, and tears to learn how to do that. But all those kind of books and learning tools, that there's a ton out there, help. So every year my staff has at least one book they need to read. I read as many as I can. The book Crucial Conversations, we've read that, and just teaching you how to have these awkward conversations that you will have as a supervisor, that no one really wants to have, but everyone has to have them. Right.
Okay. So what are your parting words to our students?
Well, I wish everyone was here. We had way more fun last year when everyone was here. So sorry about that, and this crazy world we live in.
Maybe next year.
That's right. But yeah, anyone can reach out to me, give them my information. I will be glad to talk to any of them. They can come, I can come meet them anytime, or they can come to my office and meet. I can take them on a range tour anytime. So even, I know we can't you know, have big groups right now,
Mhm.
you know, within the university, but
Right.
give them my info, and you know, we can always meet at a range or
Wonderful.
meet outside somewhere, and I can take them around.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing.